Welcome. This is my take on how to develop a hurricane weather window for PertMaster. But before we get too into this, I want to issue this disclaimer or caveat. What I did here was develop on very meager information, and when the information I had, I would regard as largely non-specific. And because of that, then assessing any damage is highly subjective. Just were my guesses without any real benchmarks and metrics to go by. And also because this very nature of a hurricane, assessing the likelihood of any impact is highly speculative. There just isn't the chance of a hurricane hitting anywhere at any particular time that great. Since this expected impact is fairly minimal, less than 3%, I thought. I think this is best treated as a P6 what-if exercise, as a reflection. And just say, that, hey, what happens if a Category 5 hits our job site on this date, and go from there. So what fault should be regarded as an academic exercise. So here's the situation. The hurricane season is the 1st of June to 30th of November. The area that I selected here was the Sabine Pass as being the closest path to Lake Charles. And again, this goes back to the meager information. And what I did is I set up my lost days. You'll see when we get into this why you have to do that. And I related that to the category of the storm that I thought might pass near. So in this particular case, Category 2 would have a 3-day lost day. Category 3 would have 5 lost days. And Category 4 would have 10. Category 5 would have 20. And this becomes highly subjective because Category 5 might destroy our site altogether. So something just to keep in mind, PertMaster seems to be a little sensitive to when your week starts. So any start date has to be a Monday. In this particular case, my week starts on a Monday. Any start date has to be on a Monday, and any finish date has to be on a Sunday. So just take that as an advisory, and I'll show you now exactly what I did. Okay, this is where it starts. This is our P6 schedule. And we have to do 2 things in here in order for it to work in PertMaster. We're doing it here because we have a lot of activities that are going to be affected by our window. Otherwise, you could do it a activity by activity basis within PertMaster. But this is how I do it when I have a fairly large schedule. This particular schedule is only 200 activities, but it was more or less specially constructed to illustrate the impact or lack of impact of a hurricane. So here's our schedule here. The first thing we want to do is we've got to add a weather resource. So we create a hurricane resource here. It has no value. It's just there so that PertMaster can grab the data and apply the weather window. So there are 2 ways, well, not 2 ways, but the way I did it was I just did a global on this. And so we set this thing up. My particular thing here only has 2 hurricane seasons, 2013, 2014. So what I did is I said all early start activities that start within June and end before December, we're going to start within that window. So anything early start June to December for 2013, 2014. One thing, a caveat that seems to be working for me is that if it's a start day, then it should be on Monday, since my work week starts on a Monday, and if it's a finish date, it should be on a Sunday. So that's why you'll see the small variations here. So we run that. And what that now gives us is the H. This just tells me that this particular activity is within a hurricane window. Once I have the H, then another global gives me the assignment of a resource. And you notice these activities here just have the craft resource. However, if it's in my hurricane window, I now have a hurricane weather resource. So that's what we have to do in P6 before we move on to PertMaster. So we basically, this is what happens. This is our result. This is all the setup. I'm not doing anything magical here that you have, but again, here's our H. And you'll notice then that we have our calendar here again, the weather resource. So what we have to do now is get PertMaster to understand what it is we want to do. So go into weather modeling, and what we want to do is import our weather data. And I'm going to show you the import, and then I'm going to show you how I got that weather data. So I have a particular thing here called the Sabine Pass, and I'll show you how I got to it. So that brings in all the information here. And so here's the probability of occurrence, here's our minimum, our maximum, and it's all going to be applied now to this. So I'm going to close off here and go back now and show you how I got that information. So this is what we brought in. This is the Sabine Pass spreadsheet, and it came from this, the data. And what I did here is I looked at all of the information that I could find from the 1950. That's when they started naming. And this is when they occurred, and this is their how strong they were, this is what they were called. And so then this gets in my little profile and my probability of occurrence. So that's how I developed that. And then here's just the information in Sapphire Screen. And here's another thing, is this is my relationship between the strength, the category, and the days lost. So category 1, all we do is just lose 1 day. Category 2, we lose 3 because we're probably going to mob and demob. And then I just raised up these ranges, are completely arbitrary, something I did and may not have any value to you whatsoever, but they're necessary for our chart here. And I didn't really have any category 5s that looked like they were going to show up. So now I have all this information, and I just run it. And this is the impact, this is what you see, and I'm not overly impressed that we're going to have any impact on this at all, but we've went through the exercise, we've now shown that we've looked at this, but I just don't see hurricanes, especially in Lake Charles. And let me show you something that helps you sell this a little bit better. There are a number of things on the web that you might want to look at. By the way, this is the table that I started with. This is how I constructed my thing. Remember, I only went to 1950. So these are the other storms that came within the Sabine point, and this is how strong they were. And you can see this graphically this way. These are all of the category 3, 4, and 5 storms that passed within 50 miles of Lake Charles. Just something just to set up for you. And you can see that this is in 1918, didn't have a name. This is in 1986, again, not a name. Aubrey, fairly strong, category 5, and Rita, of course, category 5, but look how far away it was. So, for all intents and purposes, we cannot say that Lake Charles is ever going to be really impacted by a hurricane. Sabine Point is right about here. The Sabine Pass is right, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see the little river there, that's the Sabine River. And so this is graphically another way of seeing what storms. Now this is only done by year, so it's not terribly helpful. But most of our storms do not hit. We say that to people, of course, to Katrina and Rita, but that's something else altogether. So that's what we have. Again, coming back to here, there just isn't that great an impact, but you now know how to do it. And that's really all I wanted to show you. It's somewhat involved, but not all that difficult. The setup is the key, the data is the key, and hopefully you will have better luck with data than I did. So, thank you for your time. I hope this has been helpful.